How y'all doing today? My name's Ayn, and today's topic of discussion is going to be issues before beginning anything. Issues before beginning anything. Now, I thought of this. What really sparked this interest, a family member was asking me a question, which I'd done another video on, in regards to when somebody asks, they have a request for something, they're not specific. So what they were going into detail about, they were talking about a person that asked for them to do something, a particular task at the job. And this person really didn't know what they were asking of them to do. So after the person making the request, the supervisor, they left and went on their way. The person, they looked at this information and he didn't make a move. And when I say looked at it, really, I mean in the simplest form. Just, well, wait, from the way that I'm getting the story, it wasn't even like really looked at it. It was just kind of like you took the information, and then after they left your presence, it's just like, I don't know what to do. And so as they were talking to me about what had happened, I'm like, well, did they even try to start the task that they were going to do? Because sometimes, when you start to do something, sometimes when you don't want to do something, you have a lot of questions. You have a lot of questions which really aren't good questions. They're questions because you just really don't want to do something. Well, how do you do that? Because you're trying to find like that motivation to start. But a lot of times when you get over that initial hump and just try to dive into it, whatever it is that you are given to do, you can work it from the way that you know how to work it. Or, begin how you like to begin things. Sometimes people just don't know how to begin, or they don't really want to begin things. So they have questions and then they just leave things be. So anyways, this family member was talking about the task that the supervisor had given this worker. They waited till after they left and they were like, well, I don't know how to do that. So I was talking to the family member and I'm like, well, did they even try to begin? Because it seemed like a very simple task to me, because I don't even do the job. And I just kind of thought to myself, I was like, well, I would have looked, in this particular place up for resources, or I would at least have done this until, the supervisor had gotten back, and then, or, tried to reach out to him and tell him, with this information that you're giving me and you want me to do X, Y, and Z with it, this is what I did. Is there something more that you're looking for up on it? But this person didn't do anything. So it led me into the topic of this video. Some people do that with stuff. And really, it's kind of a segue into lightweight complaining. And I say that because of jobs that I've had before in the past. And maybe we've attended a meeting, something new's getting ready to roll out. And we know how people are when things are new. Everybody just kind of, runs around like a chicken with their head cut off, because they act like they just forgot how to begin anything. And when they would roll out new processes at some of the jobs that I've been at, people, before the process is even rolled out or it's even implemented, they have 101 questions, which are really just kind of like psyching themselves out, and they begin to complain. And then when they get whatever it is that they're, set up to do, they've already hyped themselves up and turned it into a complaint fest, opposed to just kind of, thinking about some questions that you're just going to have to come to when you get whatever it is, the task that you get. Once you actually get into doing whatever it is that you're doing. Once you get going, you're going to have questions. But it's just like, let's take this first step first. But just pay attention to what I'm saying. The next meeting that you have at a job, or the next function, or it could even be something with a family where you're getting something going. And people start asking questions. They may start out, like, oh, that was a good question. But the further that questions get to being asked, it almost turns into people are making challenges there, or they're making the situation bigger than what it is because they're overthinking it, and it really starts to reveal that they really don't want any part of it. So the only question left asked to do is, why are we even doing this? Because that's what it really gets to. You don't want to do it. So that's what I thought of when I thought about the topic of this video. issues before beginning anything. And you got to think about this with yourself. If it's something that you want to do off in life, something that you're wanting to hope and accomplish to do, I've said this on countless other videos when I said, start with research first. Start with research first, because sometimes it's not as big as what you think that it is. And this is no different than the examples that I'm giving when I'm talking about the job, people doing lightweight complaining, that example that the family member was using about the person up at work being given a task, and they waited till after the supervisor was gone, and they just had question after question after question. And it's funny because as the family member was relating that to me, it seemed like the more questions that they were telling me the person was asking, it just kind of sounded like, you really didn't want to do it. Even though I'm not even on the job, it just sounds like you really didn't want to do it. But we take those approaches to everything, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about with things that you may want to accomplish or do. Sometimes you talk yourself right out of it. That's the reason why I speak about changing your self-talk. Change how you talk to yourself. Change the things that you allow yourself to even say, or the things that you allow to even come in your head. Because we all have self-doubt. We beat up on ourselves. It's easier to have a bad reflection or impression of yourself than it is something easy. It's easier for you to say something that you're getting ready to venture out and do. Oh man, what if this doesn't work? Okay, well, instead of asking that question, what if this works? It seems like it always goes to that negative side first. So, and you got to be mindful of that, because if you're having issues before you even begin anything, are you truly having issues? Think about it. If you're having issues before you even begin anything, are you having issues? To me, it makes me just think that the issues are with you. Because how could they possibly be with whatever challenge or task that you've been given if you hadn't even began it? That's like me saying that I have a complaint with the way the neighbor's house is on the inside, and I've never even been in their house. I don't like the way they carry themselves next door. I just don't like the way, cars unclean. From what I can see of the garage, it looks junky. House must be the same way. I have an issue with that. I have an issue with people that, they keep a nasty house. What type of sense does that make? You don't even know. So, think about that. Issues before beginning anything, it can't possibly be with whatever it is that you're beginning, because you haven't began it yet. So the issues are with you. You got to ask yourself, why do I have those issues? I don't know how many times I've been at a job and maybe they're rolling out something new, some new software, some new process with the thing. And it's so funny because once you start it, you get to rolling, you're like, oh, this is not so bad. Then you think back to all these complaints of stuff that people had. And one of the things that I've taken away that I've had at all of my jobs, software that we've used on the computer, I've always heard before I've come, oh, the software we had before, man, it was better. It was this, it was that, and all the ins and outs of it. Then, the software before that, it was, think about it. They had to issue in something new. When are you going to get a challenge or something? I mean, when are you going to have something new and there's not any challenges with it? What happens is we get used to or accustomed to doing something, and it becomes easy to us, and you just don't want any change. So that's where the issues take place. Because a lot of the times when change is needed, it's for improvement. Case in point, I'll talk back, like I said, with the job again. When they issue in their new software for you to use, usually it's because what you had before was outdated. Maybe they're trying to find an efficient way to do things. Now, with using the same example, me being at previous jobs, that hadn't always been the case. A lot of times, you get the software in, it's buggy, it has, a lot of issues, but you can see the intentions up behind it, and it's like anything, it takes a moment to get rolling. But, it's just not smart to roll with something until it's just, outdated or you're out of road. So, change is inevitable. Excuse me. So, Think about that when you have issues with something before it begins. If your issue is really with whatever it is that you hadn't even began yet, or if the issue is with you. That's just my take on it. My name's Ayin. I've written a book, Ayin Kilimanjaro's The Arithmetic of Family Communication. I'll leave a link in the description box. You can get it in paperback or an ebook copy. In the meantime, if you got questions, hit me up and I'll answer them in a video at ayin.kilimanjaro@gmail.com. In the meantime, stay encouraged, avoid being discouraged, and you have a good one.